Hi, I'm Tim, and welcome to Watch You Want. Thanks for logging on. Today, we're looking at Breitling's modern MVP in one of its most desirable variants. You're looking at the Breitling Blackbird, a variant of the Chronomat Evolution, released originally in 2007. This model combines a lot of the best of what's modern about Breitling, and it's a fact that since 1982, when Breitling was refounded by the Schneider family, the Chronomat has been its best seller, its volume seller, and even more than the Navitimer, the company icon, the Chronomat has been the watch that keeps the lights on, and the Blackbird is one of the most fascinating and discreet variants of the Chronomat line. So here's the backstory on the Chronomat. The name came about in 1942. It was actually the first circular slide rule pilot's watch from Breitling, not immediately advertised as a pilot's watch. It was called a technician's watch, an engineer's watch, perhaps a watch for technologists, but it gave birth to the Navitimer about 10 years later. Fast forward to 1982, Breitling has been through bankruptcy. The last scion of the Breitling family, Willy Breitling, sold the company to a German-speaking Swiss citizen named Ernest Schneider, who re-established Breitling in Solothurn, and his comeback watch was none other than the Chronomat. And a lot of the features that made that original so popular have been retained in the modern Chronomat Evo and this Blackbird. Things like the characteristic onion crown, the chronograph layout, the rider tabs, the bidirectional bezel. It's all here, but what makes this reference distinct is that it features a combination of a brushed case, bezel, and bracelet with a black dial and a grand date. That's what you get with the Blackbird edition, which I feel adds discretion. Still large, still bold, still something of a hybrid of a dive watch and a pilot's watch. You could argue that this is the watch where the sky and the sea meet. It gives up none of its history, but adds modern refinement, and I believe, again, some of that tasteful discretion, that understated confidence that's sometimes lacking in many of the bigger, more extrovert, high-polish Breitling references. Now, on the wrist, it is a large watch, over 17 millimeters thick. It's probably too thick to fit under dress cuffs of any kind. Some long sleeves maybe if you're wearing a loose sweater, but this is first and foremost a sports watch. It'll go well with a formal short-sleeved attire, but let's face it, let's be honest. How much formal wear is short-sleeved? This is a sports watch through and through, but that's a good thing, because while it does have the heritage of a pilot's watch, Ernst Schneider, after all, is a private pilot and an enthusiast of aviation, and Breitling has defined itself in the modern era as the quintessential pilot's watch. The bottom line is it's still water resistant to 300 meters, which means that with a screw-down crown and the ability to do anything short of dive bell work, this watch really is the all-purpose sports watch, so that while it might not pair well with a suit, it's appropriate for almost any other kind of activity. Now, when I call it a hybrid pilot dive watch, I refer to the fact that it's got features like the 360-degree compass rose bidirectional bezel and the chronograph, plus that water resistance. It's approximately 44 millimeters across. It's rated as a 43.7, but I can tell you on my 6 1/3 inch, that 16 centimeter wrist, it feels like a 44 millimeter watch. It's neither bigger nor smaller than its rated size. This one wears true to size. But ergonomically speaking, it's a triumph because the beautiful 5-link brushed pilot bracelet is extremely supple on the wrist, and Breitling gives a good amount of spacing between the links to articulate it over and around contours of wrists that might be of unusual shape, and also to avoid pulling at hairs. Now, the bracelet is a clamshell type that's very robust. Also brushed, like the rest of the watch, when it closes securely with a satisfying thunk. Breitling watches are very, very solid, and when we do our water testing on these here at Watch You Want, we actually use a special hard case setting on the water test machine because the watch will not compress conventionally and then decompress. And it just doesn't work with the way the watch water testing machine is used to functioning, where it compresses a watch and then sees that it decompresses just as much to secure against any kind of leaks of air or water. So we have a special setting just for the Breitlings. That's how robust they are. Now, the great thing about the watch is you get a tremendous amount of versatility. You get the highly legible grand date, and I'm going to actually move the minute hand out of the way so you get a better view of that right there. There we go. The grand date, which is really a special element of this Blackbird dial, is more legible, more visible. It's more complex, and I think it adds an element of value to the watch in as much as it's both practically useful and visually distinctive. The chronograph, of course, is present and correct. Now, this particular example is based on an ETA 2892 base movement with a vertical clutch chronograph module on top. Now, the advantage there is that the 2892 is supremely accurate and extremely rugged, every inch equal to a sports watch that is also a certified chronometer. Automatic winding, it's also very smooth because it features a vertical clutch chronograph. Now, the vertical clutch is unique because unlike a horizontal coupling where gear teeth have to mesh together and they've always got a little bit of play between them, when this watch stops and starts and resets, it does so completely immediately without jumps or staggers. With a horizontal clutch, oftentimes you start the watch and the chronograph seconds hand will jump about a second or a second and a half before it settles into its regular rhythm. When you stop it, it'll stagger and build in some error, and then oftentimes those horizontal clutches will not reset correctly or completely. The better ones will, many of them won't. With a vertical clutch, you get perfect stop, start, and reset every time. Now, this Breitling Blackbird is unique in that it features a brushed finish throughout, and that's one of the hallmarks of the Blackbird. Although I've called it out so far, I just want to mention it one more time because many object to the notion of the all-polished Breitling today. Many of their watches are huge, and when combined with a high polish finish, they can be visually overwhelming. Many who like the mechanical refinement and the high quality watchmaking standards of the Solothurn watchmaker simply can't find their peace with the way modern Breitlings look. And I'm happy to say that the Blackbird from the Chronomat Evo line is nothing like this. Although it is a big, bold sports watch, there is discretion built into that subtle finish. It's also a subtle beauty that I feel really sets this watch apart and makes it unique in the Breitling catalog and a very desirable reference to own. Very versatile, subtle, discreet, and yet bold enough to hold its own against any contemporary sports watch from rival manufacturers. The Breitling Blackbird from the Chronomat Evo line, reference A44359, is an outstanding watch for a Breitling owner who wants a do-it-all sports watch. Something that can be used for flying, something that can be used for fishing, something that's a little bit more discreet than the high-polish models, and a world removed from the Breitling for Bentleys. This is the antithesis of Breitling for Bentley. It also features considerable mechanical refinement with its chronometer-rated vertical clutch chronograph movement and the grand date at 12 o'clock. Now, this Breitling Blackbird is available in outstanding condition from Watch You Want, an absolute pleasure in the hand and on the wrist. You can see it in high-resolution images on our website, Watch You Want. I have a feeling that if you're into Breitling, but the look of the high polish, the image of the Breitling for Bentley, the sheer size and unmanageable detailing of some of the modern references may have put you off, this just could be the Breitling you want.